Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And going into the World Championship, there are at least 6 teams that have a reasonable chance of walking away with this championship. Los Angeles Thieves, fresh off their victory at Major 4, believe they are not getting complacent at all going into champs. Kenny reckons they've got their head screws on. They're still going to go ahead and beat everyone again. They've got a realistic chance to go back-to-back, and they're going to do exactly that as long as they don't get complacent, as the team is certainly not doing, apparently, at the present time. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. I just wanted to mention this because all the talk so far this season, right earlier on this year, about the fact that they won't add a trophy system because it's World War II and it wouldn't be legitimate or wouldn't be realistic or whatever, even though they did eventually add a trophy and the pros decided not to use it. But they've got some sort of like anime weapon skin in the game now. It just does crack me up, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, just get me out of this timeline of Call of Duty, to be honest. This is kind of funny as well. I'll share this clip maybe for you guys at the end of the video, but stumbled across this clip from Temp before the season began where he was kind of tongue-in-cheek saying who he thought his MVP would be. He said it was going to be Decimate. Probably not right on the money. And I wasn't trying to roast Decimate or anything. I just thought it was a funny clip, to be honest. Now, just to mention this also from Brack, because, well, these are one of the teams going into the World Championships for the Challenger side. Classic, Exceed, Mohawk, and Brack. That's a team right there, and they made champs actually because they formed a squad that had just enough pro points to outdo Rocker Academy from Europe, and they won last night the Mutineers 3K Kraken Bounty or whatever, so there was like a Challengers tournament going on. Good to see Mutineers supporting that, and these guys won, right? So going into the Challengers World Championship, it's going to be really tough to call who's going to win. Toronto, NA, probably the favourites for it, but this team's certainly right up there. You've also got Clayster's team in the mix. The European guys can never count them out either, especially at some of these, you know, big playoffs events, because in previous years, I think Black Ops 4, it was a European team that won the playoffs as it was at the time. Just to mention this also, the importance of first hills in hardpoints. The percentage of the time where if you're leading by a certain margin after the first hill, what is actually going to happen, right? We can see right here that on Berlin, if you're somehow up 40 points after the first hardpoint, then you'll win that game 93% of the time. Maybe one of the reasons why teams like, you know, maybe who don't have the highest seeds, that was the theory with Optic at Major 4, because they had the lower seed for a lot of their games, they would have not had a preferable side spawn advantage on Berlin, and maybe they thought, well, okay, we're spawning on the bad side of Berlin. If we lose a lot of time on the first hardpoint, our win rate is going to be incredibly low statistically. That might be something they thought about as well, and a similar story on Gavucci, right? If you got 40 points on the first hill, you're going to win that game 90% of the time statistically as it presently stands. Speaking of the Challengers World Championship though, in the Ultra Academy NA, bit of drama going on here last night actually from Clayster especially, as he says the following: "No way we just had Toronto Academy NA compare themselves to Atlanta FaZe. I can't believe these are real people." So it seems like NA Academy maybe are scrimming up against Clayster's team, for example, which I suppose makes a fair bit of sense. Then again, it's kind of strange because I think they are on opposite sides of the bracket actually, so it makes sense I guess that they will be scrimming each other to get good practice going into the Challengers World Championship. We saw that with Optic, for example. They don't really want to scrim teams on the same side of the bracket as them at champs because they don't want to give anything away or just, you know, get too familiar or allow the other team to get too familiar with what they are particularly practicing. But yeah, it seems like these guys are scrimming Clayster's team going into Challengers champs. And it was kind of unclear exactly what he meant by this until Vikkel from the Toronto Ultra Academy NA actually replied and said the following: "I said if I could scrim FaZe every day, I would. Never compared myself to them." So something was obviously said during the scrim here, where Clay interpreted it as like, okay, well, these guys just think they're so good, they just can't be stopped, all this type of stuff. So he says, look, you're insinuating that you're Atlanta FaZe and we should be happy to scrim you every day. Wait, what, says Vikkel? I'm insinuating that we're the best and practice, not that we're Atlanta FaZe. Read between the lines, mate, not that hard. My bad, aBeZy. I'll read the context better next time. So that was kind of funny, really. But yeah, clearly they were saying, like, okay, we're the Atlanta FaZe of the Challenger side, which might well be fair enough to a certain degree. But I mean, yeah, still, Clayster didn't necessarily interpret it the right way. And also, I'm sure Clay's thing of going into champs. Yeah, I'm going to second it, lads. Okay, yeah, you might have the best team, the most pro points, had the most success this year, but I'm still Clayster going into a World Championship on LAN with my team. Like, you know, calm down a little bit, right? So it would be kind of spicy if we do get Clayster's team exposed up against Toronto Ultra Academy NA at Challengers champs. Would be pretty funny. And probably what capped off the thread here actually was these further replies. Like, you know, when this guy says, I have 2 dads, and then Clay comes back with an absolute banger response to close out the threads. So, I mean, yeah, Clay absolutely not missing lately. We'll see if he's missing in the game in a few days' time, because yes, he's going to be out there in LA trying to compete and win all the prize money. Because I think there's actually a pretty substantial prize pool for Challengers champs. It's like 200k for first, 250k, something like that, for first place at the Challengers World Championship. Scrappy does respond. I think we looked at this clip yesterday actually from Scrappy winning his first gold back in Infinite Warfare. I might have to play this as like an outro clip, maybe not today, but tomorrow or something, whenever I get time, because it's a pretty funny one. But let's talk about the World Championship then, right? Optic going, of course, maybe as the 4th favourite for this event. Tough to say. I think Attached yesterday, he reckons they'll get top 3, but I suppose it's going to be Thieves, FaZe, New York there or thereabouts, Optic, probably the top 4 favorites in some order or another. Then you've probably got Toronto, Seattle are probably in that kind of like underdog, dark horse type range where they could make a run but wouldn't necessarily be expected to win the entire thing. And then London, Boston are probably theoretically the weakest teams there, but still, it's Vanguard, maybe anything can happen. Now, Los Angeles Thieves, they reckon they've got a great chance here of going back to Mack. It's not, of course, been done so far this season. Every event has been won by a different team so far. Is it possible Thieves can go back to Mack? That's what they want to do. They achieved it back in Black Ops 4 when they were 100 Thieves. They won London. 1 month later, they won Anaheim. And after that, they lost Miami. And then they went on to lose the World Championship in the Grand Finals after a crazy losers bracket run there. But they did go back to back last time. Thieves as an organization actually won an event. So maybe they're thinking they can do the same thing again. And Kenny seems incredibly confident that they can. He was saying, of course, we looked at when they talked about the Optic stuff and being overrated and all this. He said, look, we are the best team in the game. We are going to prove it once again come the World Championship. Will they be able to do that, though? Largely comes down to whether they keep their heads down and focused going into champs. Because many events we've seen, I think it even has happened to a certain degree so far this season, teams will win and then maybe either slack off practice or not properly respond to the adaptations of other teams.
Nah, I know, especially like when you win an event moving forward, you think you're like the best, you can do no wrong, but what have you and their team, your coaches done to make you guys stay humbled and like are still confident going into champs, but not like overly confident? Versus, who do you guys play first round, by the way?
Boston.
Boston? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be a fun one.
I mean, I guess, Cap, after he won, the first thing he said, like, when we were on the stage, like, listen, I'm gonna give y'all 1 day of raising about online when we come back, because we have like 2 weeks till champs and we need to be locked in.
Yeah.
And I think it was one thing we addressed really, really fast is that nobody on our team is getting complacent going into this. Like, we have a chance to go back to back, first team in this game to do it. Let's lock in. We know we need to work on because we know what teams are going to veto versus us now that they didn't watch this whole event. So let's work on the maps that we know we are going to play.
Yeah.
And not fall back on the maps that we're good at, just in case we do play them. But it's mostly locking in on what we feel like we're going to play versus most teams. And like I said, looking into what we're going to veto.
Okay. Can't give out too much info right now. You guys are going to have to wait and see for champs time.
So I think it's a common concern and something that Kenny has certainly recognized in the past that, players win and then they can often get complacent, right? They think they're on top of the game. And I think, honestly, this title in particular in Vanguard is definitely not going to promote people to get complacent, right? Because everyone knows it's a bit questionable. Like, very many different teams have won certain events. So if you're Thieves, you're not really going to get complacent because you know that, things could have gone differently at that event. And certainly things could go differently here at champs. It's not a foregone conclusion that they'll be incredibly competitive this tournament. Like, we're thinking, okay, FaZe, London, Boston, they might be the teams to win because they're the only teams here to not have won something so far this season, right? But I think it was the second part of that might actually be more impactful here, as Kenny was saying, just because I think it's not just the complacency idea, but it's also the fact that other teams are going to adapt, right? People are going to look at what Thieves did. They know that teams are going to look at what Thieves have been doing in their VODs and saying, okay, look, they played a lot of Berlin. Their Berlin control was incredibly good. Their Berlin hardpoint was solid as well. What do we need to do to take them down? Do we need to veto Berlin? Or how can we adapt to their play? So that's the difficulty for Thieves. They go in here with the target on their backs effectively. Everyone's going to be watching their VOD, try and figure out where the weaknesses are for Thieves and how to potentially counter them. Could work out well in FaZe's favor if teams, look, they're still going to do that to a certain degree, but Thieves are going to be maybe perceived as the key threat because they were playing the best Call of Duty last tournament. So Kenny recognizes and JCap recognizes that, okay, you get 1 day off to celebrate this victory, and then we're back on the grind. And we're looking at what other teams are going to look at what we're doing, and then potentially play around and adapt to that, right? So I thought that was pretty impressive, and he was saying, look, we'll have to see what we do with our map pool because we know what other teams are going to do to try and counter us. They're going to ban this map in a certain way. So what we're going to do is pivot to this map, and then, I don't know if it's a Gavutu or something, for example, if they play that more in hardpoint or whatever, which could work well. If they play Optic, might not work so well because Scump on that map, of course, is a bit of a demon. But it does seem like they've got their heads screwed on in the correct way. I think we've seen in previous seasons that, I think, honestly, FaZe losing Major 5 last year was very beneficial for them because they didn't go into champs having won 3 events in a row, feeling, okay, yeah, we go in here, we're going to win regardless. They had a big reality check pretty much this day last year against Seattle Surge, where they lost, of course, to Classic & Co. at the Stage 5 Major, and then were able to rebound and win the World Championship without too much difficulty. But yeah, who would you guys have as favourites going into this World Championship here? I just wanted to kind of look at this. These are pretty much all the events that have happened so far this year. We can see Major 1 was won by Optic, Major 2 was won by Los Angeles Guerrillas. Whenever we find them, I think they're probably, okay, here they are. The Prime Classic was won by New York Subliners, Major 3 by Seattle Surge, Major 4, of course, by the Los Angeles Thieves. Even the Kickoff Classic, if I scroll all the way back, was won by Toronto Ultra with Surge in the grand final. So, been a crazy season so far. One more event. Is it possible someone is going to be able to go back-to-back, or will one of these teams be able to walk away with the victory as well? So, Toronto Ultra, of course, they haven't quite been themselves from last season, there's no doubt. I feel like individually, they haven't quite performed at the same level, and their teamwork doesn't seem maybe as valuable in this game as it was before. I do wonder what this means for Rostermania, right? Because let's say they come in here and get top 6 again, they could make a good run, but I doubt they're going to win it, to be honest. I'm not sure they've quite got the consistency in all modes to actually beat the top teams, like series after series. They might beat Optic, they might beat like Thieves potentially in the next round, but I don't think they can win 2 more series after that with quite the depth that they have. They can win some game 5s, but against the top dogs, I think they're going to struggle. And if they do struggle, what does it mean for Rostermania? We're not exactly sure what the contract situation here is. We believe they have re-signed on, but they might want to make a change themselves as an organization, right, if they fail to get the success that they wanted this season, especially after, well, a good result of the Kickoff Classic, and looking promising from there. Optic, of course, always going to be a threat, not Scump's best event at all. We talked about that yesterday, right, that if Scump turns up as we might well expect him to at the World Championship, then this team once again does become a serious threat for the entire tournament. But then the other favorites really were Los Angeles Thieves, are no doubt the Atlanta FaZe. Third at this tournament, right? I mean, Cellium somehow still has a 98 overall rating, just ridiculous KD and consistency from this guy so far this season. Could they cap this off with Simp, aBeZy, and Arcitys' 3rd ring in Call of Duty? That would be quite the story as well. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Check out this video as well from Breaking Point if you haven't seen it on the Breaking Point channel. Nice video on the best ever COD Champs performances that I mentioned briefly yesterday. But hit the like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
My early pick for the 2022 MVP is Decimate. Kid's an absolute beast, one of the best subs in the game. So excited to play with him.
Let's go, baby. Easy 135. Woo! Go! Let's go. I'm not him anymore. I'm not him anymore. I'm not him anymore. I'm not him anymore. Let's go, dude. GG's. No. Let me get champ screen. Do you have a gold? This is my first gold.
No. That's
Dude,
not how
I'll tweet it out. Screw it.